Hi and welcome back. Okay, just a little bit of an update on where I'm at with the project at the moment. It's just topped the 900 hours, so it's around about 906 hours I think I'm roughly at, and a little over 3 years. So it's basically a 3-year update and build time against that. So around about 300 hours per year, which just tops the 5.7 or thereabout hours per week. If I was doing it 1 day a week over the 52 weeks in a year. So I'm going to just run around the aeroplane going through with what's left to go. For those that do understand the process of these builds, it's quite common that we all know that the aeroplane's 99% complete and still got 99% to go. So for the uninitiated, I say this with a great deal of respect, that there's a lot of things that may look like they're finished, but there's still a lot of things to go that may not look like progress, but it's all things that have to happen during the build. So I'm going to spin the camera around and let's just go through with where I'm at with everything. So just starting here at the aft of the aeroplane, I have got a little bit of a temporary weight on that at the moment, at the back of the aeroplane, because it's pretty much, if I don't have that there at the moment, the aeroplane as it stands at the moment is quite well balanced. I can lift that whole tail up with just a finger. I don't really want it to topple forward. I know that there's a bit more weight to happen at the aft, the rudder, the tail wheel, the underside of the tail cone sheets to go on. That adds to the weight, but let's just not take the risk. So you may recall that I had, in transportation moving up here into Queensland, I had damage with the tail wheel. I've since had that part arrived from Sonex. I can now reassemble all of this section here, throw the tail wheel back on, put the rudder back on, and that is pretty much done in that area. There's some finishing off decor panels that fit inside here. They show with some machine screws, just basically screwing into the aluminium sheets. I'm going to be putting some plate nuts and some removable screws that will work for inspections, so without damaging the sheet, I guess. So what I mean by that is a machine screw is going to be just going through a hole, and you unscrew it, you screw it back on, unscrew it, screw it back on. It might sort of weaken the hole a little bit. So good old machine screws is going to happen on there. I have the wing tips, or the ruddervator tips to go on to get that fairly well done. Complete this empennage section. The tail feathers have not been set up correctly. I know that there was a video I showed showing the level position and the whatever it was, 15 degrees up and 20 degrees down, I think it was, off memory, but all that sort of, the rigging of that part of the process still is yet to be done. The underside of the sheet I'm leaving off for as long as humanly possible underneath there, so I can get to the mixer and make sure that I've got all my rigging correct, and I can adjust my nuts and do the put all the split pins in for their final time. Just lying on my back for a second. Up inside there you'll see there's a small section there. That's for the SP6, which when I go to the instrument part of things, I will show you on my workbench over there where that is in the aeroplane. I'm just keeping it aft of any magnetic fields. They recommend it sort of goes to the rear of the aeroplane. So that's done, or that will be the positioning. I've got to get inside there and do it. So what I'm saying is that when I come to after I go through the instrument jig, which I've got over to the left of us here, there was a lot of, I'm going to basically set the instruments up so they're working outside of the aeroplane, and then come underneath here and fit them all so I can get a good route of cabling done, and give it some good secure locations that will be easy for me to replace them if necessary, because to get underneath this aeroplane once this underside of the sheet is on, it's going to be a relatively impossible task. The only way to get underneath here in the back of this section is to take the gamble and crawl through, which I don't really want to do, or up through. There's a small section here that has a removable panel, the underside of the aeroplane. If I spin around over to there, you'll actually see that underside sheet sitting over there. So that's the instrument, that's the access panel that fits under the Y-ax only. Okay, so moving forward to just on the wings at the moment. This wing has got its flap and aileron already sitting on the aeroplane. The actual other aileron, even though I have shown that I've finished it, is actually sitting up there at the moment because I actually ran out of rivets. So I've had those on order now from Aircraft Spruce for probably around about, it's got to be at least sort of 6 or 7 weeks. Still not in stock, so I'm waiting for those to arrive. Just on that, and in this section here is where the counterbalance goes. I've already cut the lead sections for those, and they are yet to be fitted. So if we look under this wing here, you'll actually see where the counterbalance goes. Now, a couple have mentioned in some forums that the ANs hits this part of the rib, which it does. I'm going to use some mechanical MS screws, which are a countersunk, on this section here. So the 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 screws on this side of the wing, so the right hand wing, have to be done. The other wing on the left side doesn't have to be done, and I'll show you that when I go over to that wing. You'll actually see at this section here how this is close, but the other wing, the ribs are facing the same way, which means they go further out. But anyway, we'll have a look at that anyway when we go over there. So once that's done, it's all basically done. The landing light I've already fitted in here, plus the pitot tubes and the static tubes are all done. This is the routes for the wiring for the landing light. All I have to do is basically connect those wires up and fit it. On the tips of the wing, I did this one as a sample. You may recall, so that was the sample that I did. Just cut it through and fiberglassed it in there. I'm also going to use mechanical screws on these, so a plate nut, and so it's removable. Basically, the landing light is removable to change bulbs. I've already fitted that. You'll actually see the infrastructure inside there, whereas the left wing is not done. I know I've got my jigs sitting on this wing at the moment, and I'll go through. I'm going to leave those there in situ for the moment, and I'll just go through that when I lie underneath the underside of the aeroplane. So let's just race over there now and have a quick look at that now. So just sitting under the aft of the aeroplane, I've got these just temporarily fitted in with some silver clecos. I can't drill all of these. I can't both silver and copper cleco these yet until the wings are pulled back out, because you can't get to this end of it. But they've basically been upsized now with my, you may recall I had a 1/4 inch drill that I had to buy for these, a right angle drill, which they're now done. So that's just got a temporary screw or bolt through there. These will be either bolted if the aeroplane is not going to have its wings removed, or they'll have the McMaster 1/4 inch quick release pins in there, which will be accessible from the back side of the seat pan. So when the seat pan goes in, it goes around about that angle, at an angle. You can gain access to pull that pin out from the behind the seat and through the back there, I'm assuming. So yeah, moving forward, and this is really extremely hard to do. Moving forward, you'll see my 1/2 inch McMaster pins that are already in situ there and over there. I can now rivet all of this forward spar tunneling spot. It's basically what you see there at the moment with its two stiffener angles on the side. I can, they've all been upsized with copper. I can actually rivet this in situ now. This wings will have to, the spars will have to slide back out, so I can rivet on the inside. So they're all flush rivets on the inside. They've already been countersunk when I built those parts of the build. The only thing that was upsized during this part of the rigging was the actual 1/2 inch hole that went through either side. There's some temporary AN3s, I think, through 1, 2, 3 location, which can now come apart, and that will allow this spar to unscissor and to pull the wings apart. They're not needed under the final rigging. of the wings when you're putting the aeroplane together. It's only relying on these 2 1/4-inch bolts there, and the two 1/2-inch bolts there and there, and the 2 1/4-inch bolts were just behind that rear seats carry through there. So just slipping out from underneath here. When I was building this wing, something happened with this rib. You'll actually see how the holes don't line up. I have got no idea how it worked that way, so I ended up buying another rib from Sonex, which I'm going to refit. So that wing will have to come out, redo the forward or the nose rib, the closest to the spar, or closest to the fuselage rib will have to be replaced. Once that's done, I will be able to upsize those 1/4-inch holes for the rear spar carry through. My apologies, the 1/8 copper clecos through there. Deburr it all, that can be then riveted, and this wing basically can then go in situ for its last time, which allows you to then put your doubler plates on. So that the doubler plate on this side is that wide. The double plate on the left hand side is wider for the pilot and passenger to climb up over these 2 ribs, or 3 ribs in this instance, so you're not sort of pushing your foot, you know, through thin aluminium. That's basically it on that side. So let's just quickly go to the other wing for a second. So on this wing, this one is all good to go for its, there's nothing that has to be replaced on here or anything like that. It's all good. So again, the 1/4-inch, the 1/8 rivets to go through that part of the rear spar carry through can then go ahead. Just here on the left wing, the infrastructure has been done for the landing light. I am yet to cut, so you can actually see the plate inside there. I'm yet to cut this section out for the landing light to fit in. Then once that's done, I can then run the wiring from the landing light all the way through these tubes which come back into the fuselage, and the second tube is for the navigation lights. That's on both wings as well. So 2 lots of routing, one for navigation lights, which is on the tip, and the one for the landing light, which is just on the leading edge. So there's my little, you may recall, those people who are watching, I finally had my tank made up for the Suzuki. I've just yet to put the stickers on, so there it is, poor little Suzuki sitting there. That's a video for another time. Just here at the left wing, this is the left aileron. It's sitting up over on top of the workbench over there. That's waiting on the rivets to arrive. Once that happens, I can then rig these wings off. Just quickly going back underneath the aeroplane for a second because I forgot something, and that is the flap controller. Now, when I put both wings, and I followed to a T the measurements as best I could. So the distance between the flap control on both wings made this too tight. It wouldn't fit together. So basically what I'm going to have to do, and what I mean by too tight, is that when the controller went in, so that way around, basically here's the actuator on here. The distance between this point and that point over there, it was just probably, I don't know, I'm going to call it sort of 2 mil. That's how much tolerance it was there, and I basically going to have to cut this out. My way I'm going to fix this is cut a section out. I'm going to send this off to a guy that can make me up a sleeve. So the sleeve might be sort of 300-400 long, and then I'm going to weld around either side of the sleeve and maybe put some holes, drill some holes through it as well, and put some spot holes through that, just to make this basically one piece again. Hoping that makes sense. Just on here, there's the new tail wheel. That's how much that tail wheel bent in transit, coming in the aeroplane, in the back of the trailer. So it bent right there. And there's the new one I've bought from Sonex. Here are the parts for it. I've bought a new one of those, which I've got that's the tail wheel post. I've got a new one of those to go in. Okay, at the brakes here, you may recall a video I did where I couldn't, there was a lot of dilemma with these brakes. I'm leaving them where they were set up, so I have to get some new press fittings for these because I just cut them off, and whilst I was removing the underside of the sheet from the underside of the fuselage, so I could get access to this tube and pull it back out through the rubber grommets. So I've got to ring up Sonex or send them an email and find out what that little part is. There's that little sort of a squeezy bit, like an olive, that goes around that to squeeze it together. I'll have to get new ones of those for both sides of the brakes. While we're at the wheels here, I've got the spats to make up, and I've also got the hole to drill through that castellated nut and put the locking pin in there for that, or the pin for that. So moving forward, we'll leave the engine for a little bit for the moment. So just inside the cockpit, I've got all the floor sheets have been fitted. There was still a little bit of work on the rear spar carry through, which you can see over there. I've got the silver pieces, or the raw aluminium that hasn't been sprayed yet. They've got to be upsized on that. Once I put that flap controller back through, I can then put the actuator back on, and that's basically sort of done through there. Just spinning the camera around. I'm going to lightly touch on the mixture control. I've got a vernier type of mixture control that now I've decided to put on, so that's got to be replaced yet. The instrument panel, all the instruments have been fitted inside the instrument, inside the panel here. They've been dry fitted, they work, it's all good. I just have to finally fit those once the wiring is all completed. That includes the throttle cable, which just fits over here. I'll leave these panels till last. I made some original side decor panels. Sonex supply some ABS plastic ones. I didn't really like them, only because the dual throttle controls for this aeroplane are no longer going to be fitted. I'm only going to have the single control on this side, and I didn't want to leave all that sort of the bits on the ABS plastic sort of sticking out as if they needed something to fit around it. I wanted a clean line, so I've had some new panels made up for those, and I'll bring those out shortly. Okay, just over here at the jig that I've produced for the wiring system. This is basically a direct one-to-one scale for the actual cockpit area, so the distances between these points are exactly the same, where the seat sort of comes down here, your bum sitting in here. So I've done that. The same for the firewall going forward, so I can know exactly what room I've got if I allow for the fuel tank and all the wirings behind here. So basically this is not in the correct location. I didn't want this this comes out about another sort of 1100 or 1200 millimeters or 4 foot. So basically the way that this wiring works, and I've just done a quick little drawing here. So basically from your SP6, which is just there, it has to daisy chain all the way along to the transponder, which is over here. Out of the transponder we come down to the autopilot pitch control, and out of the autopilot pitch control we've got to do these dotted red lines are the ones that are to be done. So just going down to here, so out of the autopilot pitch, I daisy chain out of here into the roll. I come back up and go into the electronic circuit breaker, into the RS32 fitting into here. So from out of there, we go across to the slave IEFIS, then across to the master IEFIS, out of there, along this side over here and into the RDAC. So if you look at this here, my little drawing, all the stuff that's inside the red line is what's left to go. So out of the autopilot pitch, across to the autopilot ailerons, into the ECB, electronic circuit breaker, back into the slave. So the blues is what I've already got in the way of tie cables. So these are a few spare cables that I've got that were made up originally, so I'll still be able to use these. I'll just have to rename it, and then whatever of the Molex has to be changed, but I think it should be okay. So basically we've got three components to the electrical system. We've got the electronic side, which is the CAN bus system. We've got the communication side, so that's the V16 radio. So out of that, we've got to run some cables to our varying aerials, and we have this little guy here which fits to the underside of the aeroplane. That's your Delta Pop, which is for VHF comm, and you've got a little tiny guy here, which is another little type of Delta Pop type of arrangement, which is for your transponder, and that's your ADS B out. Yeah, so that's that. So you've got your comms, so your electronics, which is your CAN bus, your comms over here, and then you've got your 12 volts, which is all your powering up of the varying cables and that sort of stuff. So I'll go into that in more depth once the parts arrive. Let's go. On that too as well, I've got the two heated seats. The seats that came with the aeroplane are got heated seats components in them, so I might as well plug them in and get it to work. Moving forward to the engine. Just prior going over to the engine, two other components that I have to install this is for your EGT, your exhaust gas temperature, and these are for your cylinder head temperatures. You'll see a small little copper washer. I'll show you where they go when I go back to the actual aircraft, and if it's getting noisy in here, it's just started pissing down. Just before we go over to the engine, you can see here on the left wing how this distance here is greater, because these ribs actually all face the same way through the aeroplane, and over on the right hand side, the counterbalance actually comes through at that point, and the rib is actually at that point as well. So, whoop, my arm in the road. So you can actually see I don't only have to do it on one side with the nuts, so I'll still put nuts on it and probably countersunk both sides just to keep the weight distribution, I guess. I don't think it's going to make that much difference, but there you have it. Just here at the engine, there's quite a lot of work to go on the engine. I was waiting on a small shifter or spanner, if you will, to do the adjustments on the magnetron. I don't know if you can actually see down inside there. Where is it down there? There's a little, I can't quite see, there's a little nut inside there that's got to be adjusted. This is part of the kit to give you the correct distance for the actual the magnets as the flywheel spins around on the top of this magnetronic thingy here. There's a correct distance, so it's continuously giving you that the sparking ability. Now here's the primary. They've got to be all connected up. The secondary, which goes off two coils that fit over to here somewhere, and there's a whole bunch of stuff to go on this firewall as yet. So, you know, I've got to do exhausts, I've got to do baffles, I've got to put the fiberglass panels on, I've got to do the oil cooler, I've got to do the catch can, I've got to mount the battery, the RDAC, everything like that. Up here is a fuel overflow line that comes off the little device that I made inside here for when I'm refueling. It doesn't spill inside the cockpit, and this will then run out onto the ground. The blue line down there runs to, that's the fuel supply line for the aeroplane. As I said, you know, exhaust pipes, propellers, you name it, there's quite a lot of things here to go. Around there, I have to also replace this windscreen. You may recall that I did, there was a small crack that came about after I put the very last screw in. I was devastated. So there's the spare box up there with the fuel, their spare canopy. They supply, when you live overseas, you get 2 canopies. Just over here, here's the sides that I had made up. The guy did a beautiful job of it. These parts here are removable on Velcro, because through there and out through there is where the rudder cables go through. So, and also any cable routes that I'm going to put through from aft to forward if I have to. I asked him to do something what he wanted to do in respect to patterns on there. I think it's really good that what he's done there to give it black against the red stitching. The red is going to give away what colour I'm going to be doing the aeroplane. I'm going to be using a sort of a Obsidian, I think it's called Obsidian red or something, or crimson or something like that, with black in the aeroplane as well. So that gives a bit of an indication of what I'm going to be doing. This is the actual the shape of the seat, for those that don't know, and then it fits up around about here somewhere. So it's all soft leather is done for me, and it's just a great job. Okay, so there you have it. I've completed 99% of the aeroplane. I've still got 99% to go. It's taken me 3 years to get to this stage, about 900 plus hours. Probably got around about, as a guess, I've probably got about 100 hours or more to go. Who knows? There's still quite a lot of things to do. Some things that I haven't spoken about, including, you know, fully rigging the wings and that sort of stuff. But there you have it. Thoroughly enjoying building this aeroplane. Totally enjoying building this aeroplane. It's just a great deal of fun. And hopefully I can have this aeroplane finished inside of a year, or at least to flight stage, or trial flight stage. Who knows? So I guess if you stick around, we might have this aeroplane finished by December, if all goes well. So I guess I'll come back to you all shortly. Thanks for watching.